All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February meeting of CB11's District Needs and Budget Committee. My name is Jessica Elliott, and I'm the chair of the committee. This meeting is called to order at 6:42 p.m. Tonight, we are joined by Angel Muscane, the staff liaison to our committee. In order to conduct.
Yeah,
Are we unmuted?
no, you go.
Oh, it says you're muted. Okay. Meeting called order at 6:42 p.m. Tonight, we're joined by Angel Muscane, the staff liaison to our community. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. CB11 members, if you have a question about board business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Members should not be engaging in a back and forth discussion. The chair will recognize the next person to speak. Please keep your question and comments brief and on topic to the discussion. Members of the public, if you have a question or comment about the subjects on the agenda, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. We will now take attendance by roll call. Committee members, please answer present when your name is called.
Stephanie Arroyo. Kenneth Crouch.
Barely, but I'm here.
Jessica Elliott,
Present.
Judith Ferraro,
Present.
David Giordano,
Present.
Sage Mason. Dawn Sanders,
No.
she's on. Eric
Yes,
Sample.
I'm here.
We have one.
All right.
You heard me?
Yeah, Don, thank you so much for being here.
Okay.
The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and was posted online. If there is no objection, we'll adopt the agenda as stated. Committee members, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand. Seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The minutes from our last meeting were distributed to committee members ahead of time by the board office. If there is no objection, we'll adopt the minutes from the last meeting. Committee members, if you object to adopting the minutes, you may raise your hand. Seeing no objections, the minutes from the last meeting are adopted. The meeting minutes of tonight's meeting are being taken by myself. Are there any announcements? Any informational updates? All right, we'll move into our presentations and discussions. We have two items of business today. One is our presentation and discussion, which is just reviewing and affirming the comments for the statement of the preliminary budget to be submitted to the mayor. That will be reviewed and ratified at executive committee meeting tomorrow and submitted so that it is within the required timeline. Therefore, we will not be, it's not gonna wait until full board, so. And then in old business, we're gonna go back to review the annual statement of district needs document, and I think as we've been discussing, the statement on the preliminary budget is the real and right now, based on what we've already submitted, and then the narrative is our aspirational goals and ongoing conversation. So when speaking to anyone not on this committee, just please help in trying to make that abundantly clear. But I think we're coming to the end of this statement process and we should be able to move on. Thank you to those who provided comments, specifically after I saw you just joined the meeting. Thank you so much for your committee's comments, very helpful in putting this together. We also received great comments from the Health and Human Services Committee and from the chair of the Public Safety and Transportation Committee. We also received some comments from housing. I think just if there are any questions about why comments were modified or not included, again, only comments relating to the budget items on the current budget request list are being included in this conversation. Everything else we can carry over into the future statement. Also, we may have adjusted words and verbiage for a consistent tone across the document. So if anyone has any questions, you can come to me. All right, so let's go over. Share my screen. Share. Oh, sorry, thank you.
No.
All right. I'm gonna make it really big. You all see that
God, geez, it's one-
bigger? Like it? More?
it's one.
That's good. Oh,
I'm sitting where I need to be.
I can't make it any bigger.
Okay.
Oh, there.
No, I could see, I can.
Yeah.
What's in your hand?
So there's just
Oh, you can't see?
minor changes from what you have in your hand to what is on the screen, which is the inclusion of the Health and Human Services Committee's slight rewording of their three categories. So, and I will accept that because any contribution is better than no contribution. So we're just gonna go through it. So, I don't think anyone has had, go ahead.
So the changes from the human services are for Department of the Aging, Health and HRA.
HRA, yeah, that's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I don't, like, I sent this out after midnight, last night, and some minor adjustments have been coming in since, so I guarantee that not everybody has read this. I think without fail, it's mostly, you know, reiterating the explanations of the requests that were made with, in some cases, some, embellishment with different, whether it's the night shift tours that we just did, or the community gardens tours, or, you know, things like that, that have layered in some color. So Department for the Aging, we support DFTA and its advocacy for funding to expand senior center programming and services, increase caseworker capacity, and enhance outreach to homebound older adults, enabling them to age in place. With over 16% of East Harlem's population aged 65 or older and facing significant challenges in accessing care, these services are essential. Language barriers further isolate seniors, with 35% of residents primarily speaking Spanish and a growing number speaking French Creole. Funding for bilingual caseworkers, culturally sensitive programming, and in-home services is critical to reducing isolation, improving health outcomes, and maintaining independence for our aging population. We look forward to collaborating with the FTA and elected officials to address these urgent needs. Any questions or comments on this section? Okay. School construction authority, we continue to ask that the agency take a special interest in improving the existing infrastructure of our school facilities and technology needs. Our students need increased support in navigating the challenges associated with equitable learning tools. For the students of our district to remain competitive with the whole of New York City, our students require equitable distribution of resources. We will work with your office and the Department of Education to elevate these priorities as the district grows. We also ask that bathrooms in our schools be renovated. Many of the school buildings in our district are over 100 years old and are falling apart. For the sake of the health of our students and staff, we hope that these necessary upgrades are made. We also ask that a bathroom in every school be designated as gender neutral bathroom to comply with state mandates. Any questions or comments on this section?
That's strange. You should still have something about the started exactly for this. Oh,
The bathrooms.
yeah.
Nice.
And the full, everything, Marcus started, they sent around and surveyed
Is it for the schools or for Marcus Ferry Park?
Marcus started.
Okay, well, that has nothing to do, I think, with this task, but we can get to that in parks. Department of Education, we continue to ask that this agency take a special interest in improving the existing infrastructure of our schools, facilities, and technology needs our schools. This is a little bit of regurgitation from the last one. We continue to ask that DOE expand pre-K and pre-K for all Head Start programs and other daycare programs to cover after school hours as a gap in services between the end of the school day and the end of the workday disproportionately affect working class families. The mental health needs of our youth have greatly increased since the onset of COVID-19 pandemic. DOE must be adequately funded to provide quality mental health services for our district's youth as the pandemic has disproportionately impacted them. Sincere efforts must be made to address the concerns of ostracized and bullied children. I'm not sure how I feel about the COVID-19 stuff. I was trying to get rid of a lot of that, but I think it's still probably relevant, unfortunately. So any questions or comments on this one?
No, I just thought this in hindsight, like with the one before with the expanded school, after school hours, I think we should put between 2:30 and 6 specifically. If we
Yeah, that's
can add.
great.
Just because I think we gotta name that time.
Absolutely. Where is that?
It's the second paragraph, the second line down. Programs to cover after school hours between the hours of 2:30 to 6 o'clock. It's from schools dismissed before.
Between the hours of 2:30 and 6 o'clock. Yeah. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Excellent.
Thanks, sorry.
Catch that.
Asher, go ahead.
I would just say, when you get to DYCD, because a lot of it was overlapping, just add that in the DYCD section also.
Yeah, I think, that was a question that we were discussing internally, and I think, you know, as all of these are going to different agencies, there's some obvious overlap and collaboration that needs to occur, so sometimes we're saying the exact same thing to one agency or the other. Thank you, Asher. DEP, sorry, this one's long, as this is pretty much the same as, last year's, except, condensed down surprisingly. So as highlighted in the vision plan for the resilient East Harlem and other city agency reports, East Harlem has had an elevated risk for climate change emergencies, including sea level rise and extreme flood risk. Community War 11 advocates for equitable investment in Community District 11 to address environmental justice issues using green infrastructure. Committed funding is required to actualize these projects for long-term protection against flooding. And additional considerations must be paid to the impacts and mitigation of the bathtub effect in East Harlem. As a low-lying neighborhood, East Harlem does not have the green space and permeability necessary to collect and retain large quantities of water for storm events, which are in growing frequency and power. In addition, large-scale tributary and harbor studies ongoing for New York and New Jersey through the United States Army Corps of Engineers, HAT study of direct impact on East Harlem and its impacts on the ongoing design and construction of waterfront projects in CB11 are unclear. East Harlem needs evaluation and action towards reducing risk from environmental impacts, and coordinated interagency strategies are necessary to mitigate flood risk across the interior and coastline of Community District 11. The cost of managing risk today is magnitudes less than paying the cost of large scale recovery after a big climate event. We urge the agency to increase funding to conduct a feasibility study and provide the necessary funding to create a green infrastructure corridor along East 106th Street as conceptualized in the vision plan for resilient East Harlem. In addition, CB11 asks that DEP collaborate with sister agencies to provide feasibility studies for catchment basins, sewage system capacities, and maintenance, street regrading and median islands, mitigation work, etc. CB11 encourages DEP's exploration of all scales of green infrastructure, but including but not limited to catchment basins, rain gardens, wells, etc. To be studied and implemented where possible to assist in mitigating risks along the 106th Street corridor. And something we talked about with the MTA actually. So. Community Board 11 also collaborated in the summer of 2024 with Green Thumb in order to identify the most important and necessary improvements that need to be made in community gardens across the district. CB11 supports DEP and its collaboration with other city agencies in order to resolve the top priority need for across community gardens in the district for improved access to water. Water delivery infrastructure is needed for the maintenance of the following community gardens, all the ones that we visited that didn't have water. CB11 looks forward to supporting DEP in their collaboration towards the solution. In continuing sport, and I added this because I know this was a request that we took off and, I don't know if it exists in continuing sport, but I'm hoping that in some world it does, that CB11 thanks DEP and its work and advocacy for funding on ongoing work at the Easter Class, not including the Dorothy Wagner Walk in future Richard Tucson Park and the public restroom with EDC and DPR. We ask that the agencies partner with CB11 to advocate for the funding gap, and this is why it's included in the S1 project scope 107 to 117th Street. That this critical component not only will the park space join in an equitable, the overarching goal to prevent climate risk through a consistent raised edge of the coastline is not achieved. We also ask that the agencies continue to advance equity in the experience, amenities, maintenance, and programming of these waterfront spaces. Any questions on DEP? I took some liberties there, my bad. Human Resources Administration, this is a slight change in what you have in your document. So we support HRA and expanding housing assistance and domestic violence prevention programs given East Harlem's violent crime rate of 10.3, nearly double the city average of the highest rates of intimate partner violence in New York City. Additionally, it's expanding SNAP and bilingual caseworkers is vital as food insecurity and language barriers continue to impact our community. With 13.5% of residents identifying food access as a key concern and a ratio of 1:17 of supermarkets to bodegas, improving access to nutritious food is essential. Furthermore, East Harlem's LGBTQ+ community faces high rates of hate crimes and homelessness, while the growing migrant population requires language access, healthcare, and legal aid. Addressing gun violence is also paramount, with 35% of local high school students witnessing gun violence. We urge HRA to advocate for violence prevention programs and look forward to collaborating on these critical initiatives. We urge HRA to advocate for funding for specialized services to address the unique needs of LGBTQ+ community and the migrant community in East Harlem, in addition to the broad range of services and programs available to address income inequality and homelessness generally in the city. The housing and healthcare services, legal support, etc., asylum seekers is a priority concern for CB11. We look forward to work with HRA to confirm the specific programs and services provided in East Harlem and how to best support migrants. We also urge HRA to continue to advocate for funding for evidence-based violence prevention programs to address gun violence in East Harlem. We look forward to working with HRA city agencies and the mayor's office to activate the work of OPGB in East Harlem, and that was straight from the agency's response. Any questions or comments on HRA? Great. DOHMH, we support DOHMH's advocacy for increased funding for social workers and peer support workers to address East Harlem's overdose death rate of 56 per 100,000. Nearly 3 times the city average. Expanded harm reductions services, particularly in high-risk areas like the 103rd, 110th, and 116th and 125th Street corridors, are essential for reducing overdose risk and improving recovery outcomes. Additionally, with East Harlem's vaccination rates lagging behind other neighborhoods, targeted outreach, especially through mobile clinics and multilingual education, can build trust and increase immunization rates, protecting both public health and healthcare costs. We urge the agency to increase funding for increased peer support workers and social workers to prevent overdose risk and improve recovery outcomes. Rodent infestations remain a significant health risk, with current funding levels insufficient to address the growing population. We urge UHMS to prioritize comprehensive rodent mitigation measures beyond educating property owners. Collaboration with DSNY and DPR is essential to implement advanced pest control technologies and improve trash management, ensuring a healthier environment for residents. And that came out of this assertion that just educating properties alone would be enough to solve the problem, which we disagree. Any questions or comments on DOHMH? HPD, we support HPD in its advocacy for funding for the development of rental and cooperative housing at peak affordability levels, targeting households living under 30% AMI. CB11 asks that the agency focus on providing household housing and funding for subsidy programs for those in the district who might have intersectional needs, including seniors, those who are low income, those experiencing mental illness, those who have may been formerly homeless, those who are disabled, intergenerational households, etc. We also support HPD in advocating for the increase of funding for specialized enforcement programs, as well as affordable housing preservation programs. We support HPD in searching for ways to activate CBS and 485X to create new affordable housing on underutilized or vacant private lots. CB11 asks that newly developed or rehabilitated apartment buildings include a balanced mix of mixed income units and also include a percentage of units for low and extremely low income households. We look forward to continuing to work with HUD and other city agency partners on managing ongoing housing developments currently in the design and construction phases in the district, as well as find new opportunities to preserve and provide additional affordable housing within the district. We look forward to working with HUD residents to understand how the TIL and ANCP programs will be implemented moving forward, as this was a question specifically from one of our board members. And we will carry that through in the housing committee. Any questions on HPD? DPR, we support DPR and its advocacy for funding for a number of critical park and playground space renovations and maintenance, including 1, the full renovation of the remaining half of PS 155 playground, and 2, the full renovation of Alice Carnegie Triangle. We look forward to working with the agency to advocate together to prioritize these important projects. There was one other request that was ahead of Alice Carnegie Triangle, which I believe was it had a lot of comments about things that could be addressed quickly, so it seemed like that maybe had a little bit more conversation, and we know that Alice Carnegie Triangle needs a lot of immediate repair. So I took the executive decision to put Alice Carnegie Triangle a little bit ahead of, I think it was Wagner Playground. Yeah. We were living collaborated in the summer of 20, and this is the same as what we said earlier, the collaboration with DEP. We look forward to working with DPR and elected officials on environmental justice as it relates to equitable funding for our district, including the provision and maintenance of street trees. We look forward to understanding DPR's focus on East Harlem as a priority area for neighborhood tree planting, which is what they said in their response, but continue to ask that DPR provide additional support for young trees after the 1-year timeline after a tree is planted, which they said it's basically up to us after the first year. We also look forward to working in partnership with DPR and other city agencies like DEP, DSNY, DOT, etc., to address climate justice issues such as flooding and heat, which impact our residents often. And continuing support, and this is the same as the peer one or the gap in funding at the Esplanade from 107 to 117. Any questions about parks?
Well, like I said, they sent out, Marcus Scoffy sent out to, I guess, you know, take care of the bathrooms, every possibility.
Yeah.
The playgrounds, the baseball fields, the pools and
Great.
everything. So there was, it was sent out, and I know the people in my building got it. And they had a survey of what we thought
Mhm.
about the safety in the park,
Mhm.
the needles in the park, and how, there should be more patrol within Marcus Garvey. I mean, that Marcus Garvey has so many things going on.
Oh, yeah, they got-
Barbecuing
Yeah.
things, the pool house.
Yeah.
The bathrooms there, it's like everything.
Well, I would love if you could share that survey with Rosa and the Parks Committee so that they can talk about it. I know there's a lot of projects ongoing there. I believe we removed the Marcus Garvey Park request from the district budget request this year because did we remove it, Angela? Is it still?
There's been a lot of capital work in Parks Garden.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I thought we removed it.
and like I said, they sent out this survey so that the people who live there can, give their opinion.
Well,
And
I
it
think-
was a very poor opinion. You know.
But I've looked at this like 100 times and I don't remember seeing Marcus Garvey in it this year. So instead of that living in this document, we can put it on the next document we're gonna talk about in whole
Yeah.
business. So let's talk about that. Thank you for bringing that forward.
Okay.
DSNY, we support DSNY and advocacy for funding and the provision of a permanent state of the art. Yes,
Just to that survey that we have shared on the newsletter.
great.
Oh,
The
so
survey?
you did get
Yeah,
the survey?
we can share it.
Who did the survey, like? who put
Marcus
it-
Garvey, Park Alliance.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great. Yeah, maybe David,
I'll double check and get you the right.
you're still on the parks, maybe.
No.
Oh, okay. I'll talk to her. All right.
I'm on housing.
We all just scoot around.
Yeah, it's the Alliance.
Okay, cool. Well, that's helpful. Then hopefully we can collaborate with them and what we need to specifically ask for in alignment with them next year.
it was a 24-page survey.
Wow, that's a lot of pages.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have the patience for that other than.
Oh, no, it's just like, yes, no, what you.
Oh, that's
You know, and all that, you know.
Yeah, people like, I do that.
All right, DSNY, we support DSNY and its advocacy for funding for the provision of a permanent state-of-the-art dual district sanitation garage to service Manhattan Community Districts 10 and 11 that allows for the full consolidation of all sanitation uses in the district in one location. CB11 looks forward to DSNY's follow-through on the commitment made in the East Harlem Collective Agreement, which describes a new building that should meet or exceed legal standards and be equipped with the most advanced indoor air filtration systems using zero emission sanitation trucks. With the forthcoming reinstatement of the community advisory group, CB11 looks forward to exploring alternative sites to DSNY and other city agencies and elected officials to find a permanent solution. We also originally considered increased budgeting for the equitable distribution of on-street rat visits and trash cans on every corner of every major intersection in the district. We maintain that DSNY should continue to increase the number of trash street bins as well as the frequency of district waste collection and work with the other cities agencies like DEP to assess how issues of trash in the street contribute to elevated flow risks. Anything else for DSNY?
Can someone humor me, I'm gonna be stupid on this one. What happened to the fact, sanitation, remember that we're supposed to be where, Potemkin was?
That's where it is right now.
Yeah.
It's a temporary garage.
That's it, but it was supposed to be,
It was not, there was no permanent solution, location identified other than that location, so they rehabilitated that building as a temporary
yeah,
solution.
because we were talking about how they did it down in Chelsea with the indoor thing.
Yeah, that's what they
They-
promised us, yeah, but it was a policy pledge, not a funded commitment. So we have to find a location with our elected officials
Is that
and DSNY, yeah,
Is not it?
yeah. So that's what we had the IBO report on in June and all that, so. Hopefully we can get that started.
We won't be on the board.
I'll be underground watching it.
All right, Department of Small Business Services, we support SBF and its advocacy for funding for increased support for the commercial lease assistance program, the contract loan fund, and a commercial organics requirements compliance assistance for small businesses in East Harlem. While we're grateful that progress can be made with existing resources, we ask that SBS continue to partner with CB11 and other partners to expand support and outreach as we look forward to providing recommendations for targeted outreach in the district. Anything else on the small business services? Department of Transportation, we support DOT and its advocacy for funding for better lighting and improved sidewalk infrastructure throughout East Harlem and look forward to working with DOT to identify specific areas of concern within the district. And these locations were provided by our Public Safety and Transportation Chair. East 117th Street between Parks and Lexington Avenue, beneath the Park Avenue Viaduct, the area surrounding the FDNY, ladder 35, blah, 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 between East 124th and East 25th Streets and 3rd Avenue. We understand that DOT has agreed to provide feasibility studies for these areas identified, and we urge that one study the necessary funding be allocated to implement new lighting and make sure any necessary repairs to the existing lighting, sidewalks, and other pedestrian infrastructure. Okay, we also understand that DOT has agreed to provide feasibility study for residential parking permit program, and we again urge that one study the necessary funding be allocated to enact the program without significant burdens for residents of the district. We look forward to working with DOT and elected officials on these studies. Preventing increased traffic and pollution in a district that disproportionately experiences asthma while improving safe, reliable park roads is a joint effort to address the real needs of our district. And this was just, I think, in a response that they said they'll do feasibility studies, but that doesn't get us that just tells us what's next, right? Exactly. We need the funding for what comes after the feasibility
It's been
study.
a long time.
Any questions or comments on DOT?
Along with the parking.
Well, now the MBPO's office is talking about it, so maybe we're getting somewhere. Department of Youth and Community Development, we continue to ask DYCD to reinstate discretionary funding for elementary and middle school after-school programming in East Harlem. These programs relied on this funding to provide opportunities to maximize the amount of kids that they can serve. We also continue to ask for more funding for, in East Harlem for high school students are often having to travel far to attend the very few DYCD's after-school programs. It is important for them to have access to programs close to home so they can tend to other responsibilities such as picking up their siblings. Having a safe place to go after school will also help prevent these adolescents from getting involved with crime. We asked for more funding and creation, okay, this is where I have to add in,
Yep,
The 2:30.
after school program.
yeah.
I would just say, we could say the first sentence, right? And
Yeah.
creation of after school program for pre-K students between the hours of 2:30 and 6
Perfect.
o'clock.
Got it in there. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for making it easy for me, David. Additionally, the summer youth employment program needs to be expanded beyond the summer season. Currently, work, learn, grow program offered during the school year needs to be expanded to offer more spots and opportunities for career readiness. Am I wrong that did they cancel that for a while and they brought it back?
The work, learn, and grow?
No, that's why you
So SYP is around, but it's summer,
Yeah.
Oh,
right? So during the winter, they offer work, learn, and grow, but it's like at 10% of what they supply during so 70,000 kids during the summer,
yeah.
7,000 during.
Oh my God, wow.
Right, so you're talking about high schools, and it's only kids that could have been in during the summer, so it's only a small pool.
Yeah.
Of the kids, so the idea is to expand it, and even if it's very short, it's only like 10-week program, they
Yeah.
pay them. But they pay kids and they get work experience, and that's how we have, like, we call them councils in training.
Yeah.
So you're teaching somebody before they get the role to be responsible for kids.
That's good, yeah. Okay, cool. I was just making sure I understood that. Any questions or comments on DYCD?
I got one more thing that I realized that I didn't put in this is also to put for the work, learn, and grow program, because a lot of them are in like midtown, like the sites or downtown. Maybe put for East Harlem, like spots in East Harlem, because there's very low spots, or maybe that's asking too much. But a lot of them are like far. It goes back to they expect high schoolers to travel far, and not every high schooler will travel far or can travel far. So yeah.
Does that work? So currently the work, learn, and grow program offered during the school year in East Harlem needs to be expanded to offer more spots and opportunities for career readiness, and I'll say in CB11.
Yeah.
Does that work, Asher?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it's funny, because community district 2, where most of the high schools are in the city,
Yeah,
is not where most of the kids live.
yeah, it's nuts. I don't understand anything about the school system. Seems like,
Seems
seems like you're all just going to the ends of the earth for.
The more I learn, the more I know.
It truly is. Like if you experience it, people do go far.
Yeah, I get it. All right, EDC almost there, hopefully. We support EDC and its advocacy, consider forthcoming investments in East Harlem to support the 125th Street Business Improvement District and creating a significant traffic transit hub on 125th Street, connecting the Lexington Avenue line, the Empire Second Avenue subway, and the Metro North, which is under renovation. CB11 asks the development of the zone potentially include commercial real estate, performance based and affordable housing. CB11 strongly supports EDC and its efforts to provide funding for infrastructure that supports growth in commercial business districts. This includes investments in commercial spaces, transit hubs, and the expansion of programs in emerging emerging and legacy industries in East Rutland. And then the same thing about the gap in funding for that salon. Anything else for EDC? DCA, wait,
No, that should be Department of Culture.
this one,
It's a DPR.
cultural affairs?
Yeah, that's what.
Okay, we urge the agency to provide funding for infrastructure lighting, yes, sound and handicap accessibility improvements to local theaters such as the Tata Laviera Theater and the Julio de Burgos Community Center. CB11 asks that DCA allocate funding and invest resources in order to activate the underutilized theaters in East Rutland. With the support of the designation of East Rutland as cultural district. Thank you, Eugene. And Senator Torona, CB11 looks forward to working with the agency to support the arts in East Rutland. Anything else on DCA? All right, NYCHA, we support NYCHA and its advocacy for funding for the expansion of occupational skills training and programs and workforce development. CB11 has visited NYCHA campuses, surprise, and discussed the execution of these programs with tenant leaders and looks forward to working with NYCHA and residents in order to enhance these programs. And we used section 3, which is something that came up in this conversation, so as an example. I hope that's okay. We also support NYCHA and the advocacy for funding for the maintenance and maintenance workers that service NYCHA campuses and their residents while visiting NYCHA campuses. Notices that combined campuses with as many as 18 buildings are managed by a single maintenance worker. We look forward to working with NYCHA and residents to assist with immediate maintenance needs, e.g. plumbing, repair, mold remediation, intercom systems, etc. We also urge the agency to work with MOCJ to advocate for the funding of the expansion of the mayor's action plan for neighborhood safety and NYCHA developments in CD11 in partnership with NYCHA residents. We look forward to working with the agencies to understand why this request was not supported and cannot be accommodated by the MOCJ. A little bit of cross pollination in case NYCHA can help us out there. Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice, we urge the agency to increase the funding for the expansion, we just said this, of the mayor's action plan for neighborhood safety and NYCHA developments in CD11 in partnership with NYCHA and residents. We look forward to working with the agencies to understand why this request is not supported and cannot be accommodated by these. New York City Police Department, we think the NYCPD was specifically for the 20th. Specifically the 23rd precinct located at where it's located and the 25th precinct also located. For their commitment to building relationships to improve the quality of life in our community. We look forward to continuing to partner with NYPD to better advocate for the general safety and security of East Rutland. We urge the NYPD to increase funding for youth crime prevention programs and to work with community partners to engage youth in East Rutland, maintaining the provision of productive programs for East Rutland youth, such as mentoring, sports programs, NYPD Explorer, internships, along with other community investment, law enforcement, collaborative policing programs. We will use the opportunity to build bridges between law enforcement and the community to a place of belonging and trust. We look forward to working with NYPD to understand why this request was not supported and cannot be accommodated to the agency. My question here is, we want to copy this paragraph to any of the youth focused items.
They're actually having their meeting tonight.
We did have one like violence prevention budget request for youth. I think
Okay.
also human services had one. I don't remember
there's a
the
lot.
exact code, but yeah.
And this is also specific to the police
is, yeah.
department, it's something that they provide.
Yeah.
We used to allow them to provide like this community center, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think we can just, go ahead, Angel.
No,
I was just gonna say, I think we can just talk to the NYPD and bring it up in conversation, in our budget consultations with the other youth focused agencies. See where we can progress it. Angel?
I would
Sorry.
just add sentence PSA 5.
Right.
Where?
Yes,
In the first sentence, when you're listing off the precincts, add PSA 5.
Or like the technical map, right?
I think I referenced the at-risk youth one where in the DOE thing, like the tracking code for the bullying and the violence prevention, like that whole section. I'm pretty sure I referenced the tracking code.
Okay, cool. Is it, Angel, is this where you wanted to add this on the screen?
Just for you, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. All right, Thank you, Asher. DCP, we urge the agency to provide funding for the study of vacant lots and vacant residential units in CD11. We look forward to working with DCP and understand why this request is not supported and cannot be accommodated by the agency. And I understand that the intern is doing work along this. I didn't know how to integrate that, but I don't think we necessarily need to. We can just talk
Yeah.
with them. Okay. Anything else for DCP? New York Public Library. We support NYPL and its advocacy for funding for extended hours, expanded programs, and enhanced collections at libraries in CD11, understanding that only a single public library is operational in our district. We understand that the libraries are a place of support, resources, and learning, and continue to ask for increased funding for library services in the 8th Parliament. We're excited that the 125th Street Library is now open to the public, and that the renovation of the I can't roll my R's. Library is in progress. We look forward to working with NYPL to provide a tour to the recently completed 925th Street Library and update on the construction progress of the library with our Economic Development and Culture Committee. You're welcome for that agenda item. We look forward to working with NYPL to continue advocating for library access and program needs in the district. And I'm wondering if I'm looking at the wrong document now because I don't see your items at the bottom.
You are.
Okay.
That's okay, I'll compare them.
Are you sure? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it's
I'm the worst.
It's fine, it's fine.
Okay.
So for the Office of Management and Budgets, I added the following. We are disappointed that an increase in baseline funding was not included in the preliminary budget. Since the COVID-19 pandemic and the state of emergency, public agencies, including community boards, now conduct their meetings in a hybrid format, which allows the public to continue to attend and participate remotely via video conference. While convenient and necessary for many participants and attendees, there are costs associated with providing this service which community board budgets were not adjusted to cover. Funding is essential for community boards' ability to meet the promise of continued remote accessibility for the public and offset the cost for videography services and utilization of suitable off-site meeting spaces. We hope that this will be reconsidered in the executive budget. Without increased funding to help cover these costs, community boards may find themselves unable to provide what has now become a part of this civic engagement and participation with government.
Great, thank you.
Good.
And you said there was something else about, George James.
Let me
So
clarify,
you mentioned that. So we don't ask for the funding for the land use consultant in our budget request. We ask for them from discretionary funding, which
Okay.
we apply for separately.
Great.
Angel, just added a question, how much more do you estimate, like, just operating the hybrid model now?
So,
Like, per month, right? This is the
yeah.
cost.
So it's the cost of the videographer and it's the cost of renting spaces when it's necessary. So what we're doing this fiscal year, because we got a discretionary funding award from Councilmember Ayala, Deputy Speaker Ayala. We've been using those funds to cover those costs.
So it's not coming out of your budget.
Right, yeah, but the ask was for that to be baselined from OMB because discretionary funding awards are dependent on availability of those funds and decisions by the council.
Are there any final questions, comments, adjustments, or do I hear a motion?
That's a good point. So we're asking people that make the determination.
I think we don't have the money.
I love it.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the changes to the statement of district needs in response to the. Oh, God,
So the response to the preliminary budget.
that's it. The response to preliminary budget. Thank you.
Seconded by Ken.
Thank
All
you.
those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Thank you, everyone. I think that's a good framework for us to begin to develop over time. You'll notice that some of us, Isaac and committee used great data to support their comments too, so that's something we can start to fold in over time. Yes,
No, I think that's a really good point. I think particularly like with us and really making the case for why we need,
yeah.
particularly like finance work.
Oh, and sorry, I've been cheating and using 2027 as like a clean workspace so that I knew nobody would edit anything.
Yeah, I caught that as you were reading.
Yes,
Yeah.
so
But
sorry.
I'll copy over from here.
Okay, thank you. as it relates to our old business, with the statement of district needs documents, last month we talked about, dividing up into, little teams to reach out to the, committees that each policy area reflects. So this is still something that we're gonna be continuing to do. What the ask was this month was just to do an outline. So we're gonna run through the outline, and then from here, we're just gonna agree that the outline is, you know, like, I think there's still. Everyone still needs to talk to the chairs and committees that they relate to, because I'm not sure that was done enough. It was probably in like the case of Health and Human Services and Parks, but I just need to understand from the rest of us, so. The idea is that we'll start to, in those groups, expand this outline in order to turn it into a narrative. And that will incorporate, as we discussed, the goals and things that people are looking forward to in each committee for next year, or that they're talking about now, and to, again, support those requests with committee action, so we're kind of just churning. Just at the top here, the top 3 pressing overall issues, it seemed needed a little refresh based on our current asks. So affordable housing remains at the top, sanitation garage replaced whatever was second, and housing creation as the third. This is subject to change, obviously, with the funding requests for next year. So David and I reached out to, and just for everyone's knowledge, there's a color coding here. Yellow means we're gonna talk to the city agency. Green means we're gonna talk to elected officials. Sorry, I was searching for HRA again, I found it. And now it's there. Okay, and then blue is internal actions, I believe. We'll get to blue in a moment. So if we start at healthcare and human services as an example, these were the budget requests for 2025, and any actions we determined out of them. So from the programs to address public health issues, as an example, we're gonna reach out to HMH and DPR as it relates, I believe, to needle collection and things like that. For some of these requests, like the case management capacity and senior care program requests, these are things that we're identifying as something to bring up to our elected officials. So I'm not gonna go through each one of these. Some of them have no action, and that's okay. There was one item from HRA that there wasn't a response provided, so that was interesting. And then under the outline, so overarching themes, what are we hearing are like the goals of the committee generally? So from Isaac's committee, Health and Human Services, David and I are hearing mental health support, immigration and civil rights, substance abuse and addiction treatment, affordable and supportive housing. Public education, oh yeah, Isaac to set committee goals in progress. And then, you know, anything that's been passed so far this year, or as anticipated community actions, obviously there's more to fill in here. And then anything we've heard from the community. So equity and service provision is something we hear a lot. And then I think as a base for every policy area, these are the 4 kind of topics we're talking about. So if you could work with your partners and your little teams, talk to the committees and leadership, and just confirm across each of these policy areas, these 4 items, then that will give us the tools we need to rewrite this narrative. I'm just gonna scroll down to see a blue. Somewhere here, out here. The FDNY request, it seemed was not something that they supported. So it's like an idea, maybe wanted to not include this request next year. So just some internal notes as we talk to our groups across these things. So let me find one more example. We're working with Councilman District Speaker Diana Ayala's office for the CAG restart as a green example. Budget consultation meetings that we'll have for specific requests. Summarizing the themes and goals of the committee. And then so that I think blue is probably where I'll focus. So the housing committee should follow up with the 2 buildings impacted by the TIL program and make sure that housing comes to the table, HPD comes to the table, and we can understand what's happening next. Now that they've done the housing, the NYCHA tours, how do we layer that in moving forward? layering in the community board, 11 intern work on the vacant, lots and, housing initiatives. Let's see, site visits and photos to support requests for specific, school requests, if that, can be, put together. Ideas for combining, there were actually, I think, 2 requests in the district needs a budget that were redundant. So I think there's some opportunity to condense and strengthen. And just some other internal notes, I'm not gonna go through it all, but, I think we all know we still have work to do in this area. So please, between this month and next month, reach out to your groups, and you'll see on this document, which team members are responsible for each policy area. If you have any questions, just feel free to reach out and I will assist. Don,
Oh, thanks. Do we have this document? I'm just trying to search in my email.
yes,
The
you
one
do.
that you're okay. All right. I'm gonna I'll search your name and find it.
Yeah, I think I've been responding to the same chain, so if you find the chain, it should be one of the earlier emails. But let me know, Don, if you can't find it, I'm happy to send it again.
Okay, because I heard something about the fire department didn't want something, and I was wondering if that was because we did
That was our
have.
last- Yep,
Say that again.
it was the very last request. It
Oh,
was.
okay.
The properly operating safety fixtures such as better lighting and functional security cameras at first responder buildings. They said agency does not support and cannot accommodate. So we just need to have a conversation with the fire department, understand if we're sending that to the wrong agency, if that's just not something that they're think is a problem. I don't know. So we'll see
We
how that
got
goes.
Well, one of the firehouses had made very specific requests. So I'm just going to look for this document and then I'll try to look back and see if there's any correlation because I don't recall. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of like confirming with that original requester if it's still a problem and letting them know that we asked for it and they said that they do not support and will not accommodate and seeing if there's any necessary future steps.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Anything else for today? Any new business?
Could I steal a couple of minutes?
Absolutely.
Since there's people here, people online, just as a reminder of what we have publicly available budget requests wise. Because these documents that we're discussing, they're internal, as they should be, but we also offer information
share your screen?
for, yeah, I will, once I get there. Information with the public that they can also be aware of where we're standing with, here. Or we're standing with our budget requests. No, I might not be looking at that picture.
So that's the picture.
I was just gonna say.
That's the bridge about Thomas Jefferson Park.
That's the,
Oh, right.
that's the pay to wartime. Okay, so folks can see my screen,
Yes.
yes?
I can see it.
So for those here and for those attending online, in terms of these budget requests that keep being referenced here, just wanted to share that on our website, right on our main page, when you hover over about CB11, if you scroll down to budget requests track here, turning into Porky Pig.
I think the
You'll
screen's frozen,
you should-
because I see it on Zoom, but I don't see it on the TV, which is weird.
Yeah, it's showing here though.
Yeah,
Sure ways.
here, I'll share. This is what it looks like.
Yeah, that's what she, yeah. So I'll just use one here as an example. So they're organized by the requests submitted for the most recent fiscal year submission. So you'll see, at the very top, it says, the rank for the second column for fiscal year 2026. That's what we're working on right now. We're continuing to work on This conversation on preliminary budget is relevant to fiscal 2026. So in the request, if you go to the far left here, you can expand the specific request.
What happens when?
Yeah, I know, I should start drinking. And it'll give the details, should you be interested in, where we ranked it, the type of request, capital or expense, this is not good. Details on the request, an explanation, the corresponding agency, and then, in this section here, the agency response as of the last adopted budget. And you'll see that it's listed, according to each fiscal year, the response, like, sometimes they don't change. And we're keeping them here just for reference sake, but should you be interested, you can find it here. In addition, you can find, the committee of origin for the specific request. Going forward, as we start to implement the practice of having corresponding documentation for each of these requests, they'll also be included in this database, and it's readily available right on our website. So should you be interested, you can find it there. Access.
Great,
Thank you.
yeah. For those of us in the room, we can watch the recording if you get confused about that, but it's just on our website. Angela and I would be happy to assist. All right, any new business? All right, thank you all for being here. We'll do roll call. Appreciate the work moving forward.
Stephanie Rogers, absent. Crouch, Jessica Elliott,
Present.
Judith Ferraro,
Yeah.
David Giordano, present. Sage Mason is absent. Dawn Sanders.
I'm here.
Present. Thank you, Don. And Deborah Sampson is absent. Have fun.
Thank you.
Very
Angel.
good, thank
Have a
you.
great night, everyone.
Good night,
everybody.
Stay warm, everyone.
I forgot to say.
Sure.
Yeah, good night.